Patricia, everyone will be waking up in Thailand to a lot of confusion as to what happens next. This was a contentious election to start with, a lot of controversy surrounding whether it should go ahead in the first place. Eventually, Constitutional Court left it with the government to decide. Prime Minister Yingluck adamant it would go ahead despite anti-government protests, but it was considerably disrupted. Scenes of jubilation last night as the anti-government protesters celebrated, in effect, that they had managed to disrupt this election throughout the day. Calls for victory calls, telling Bangkokians from Suthep, the protest leader, that they were successful in their protest. And now we're also hearing that just before the election, the Democrat Party, the opposition party, where every MP, Patricia, stood down in Parliament in objection, and then the snap election was called here, they have actually filed an appeal to an ombudsman to contact the Constitutional Court to review the validity of this election. So a lot of uncertainty, and the day unfolded with a lot of confusion. Let's take a look at this report, Patricia.
It was meant to be their day. Voters, whether pro-government or simply demanding their right to vote, protesting outside a polling station that had closed down after an anti-government protest.
Election, we want to vote today. These people have come to cast their vote. They're holding up their ID cards, but they're not being allowed into these district headquarters.
One man, one vote. This is democracy, this woman complains. A short while later, they stormed the building. There was an altercation with the police. This woman rushing upstairs, demanding to see the ballot boxes to cast her vote. Eventually, these voters were convinced to file police complaint forms and go home. One of the first people who did manage to vote on election day was the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Yingluck has come to cast her vote. She's been insistent that this election must go ahead despite anti-government protests that didn't want this election to go ahead, and for calls for her to step down.
Those against this election boycotted it because they believed it wouldn't achieve their demands to cleanse Thai politics of corruption. No, I didn't go to vote. I want reform before election, this anti-government protester tells CNN. The government denies allegations of corruption. Prime Minister Yingluck insisting she will only go if people vote her out of government, saying an election is the only way forwards for Thailand. Anti-government protesters may not have been able to completely shut down Bangkok as they planned to, but they have significantly disrupted the election. While the majority of polling stations managed to open, 11% of polling stations were forced to close, according to the Deputy Prime Minister. Protesters have stopped candidates from registering, they've blocked the delivery of ballot boxes, and they prevented voters from casting their ballots. Now Thailand must hold by-elections, which are set to maintain the turmoil in Thailand's political landscape. This has been an inconclusive election, a victory for anti-government protesters as they marched out as polls closed.
And those anti-government protesters aren't going to stop marching, Patricia. They are planning to march out in the next couple of hours here in Thailand. It's early morning, people waking up the morning after the election, and they are going to maintain this protest. This isn't going away after this election. What they're planning on doing, led by protest leader Suthep Suban, the head of the People's Democratic Reform Committee, this umbrella group of various factions that oppose the government and the Shinawatra family, they're going to take this procession around Bangkok. They're a stronghold, if you like, and a hotspot, of course, for violence as well, as we've seen. And what he's saying is today, after this, what he believes is an illegitimate election, any government worker who plans to go to work shouldn't. they should stop and they should join the protest because now they also don't hold legitimacy. And he's also saying that they will take their protest to government buildings. So still a lot of uncertainty here. Another thing that he said on stage late last night as he held this kind of victorious celebration of being able to disrupt the election considerably, by the way, he actually said about that gun battle that we were trapped in. My producer became trapped in amongst these gunmen on Saturday on the eve of the election. He said that the masked man that we saw, that we filmed with a gun shooting at people, was not one of his protesters. Patricia?
Okay, Simon, stay safe and thank you for bringing us that update. Simon Mawson live for us from Bangkok. We, of course, will continue to follow this developing story and bring you the very latest.